Robin counted the money left over from her recently received salary and sighed dejectedly. Not much. How could a librarian who was raising her son alone have much money? Although maybe all this would not be so critical if it were not for the treatment. Robin has had heart problems for a long time. Doctors have said many times that surgery would make a huge difference, and she would be almost completely healthy. But in every situation there's a but, and in Robin's case it's understandable. Money. Quotas for surgery can wait as long as you want because there are people with much more serious problems. But to pay for it was out of the question. Her salary was barely enough for medicine. Those pennies that she managed to save before the paycheck melted with unstoppable force. After all, among other things, it was necessary to support herself and the child. And Robin was completely alone. There was not only no husband, but also no parents. She grew up in an orphanage. She did not know how to complain and ask, but people around her saw how difficult their lives were. The library staff sometimes shrugged their shoulders in confusion when they saw her shivering in a light jacket in the cold, walking in the spring with wet feet in shoes that should have been thrown out long ago. They saw that she went to work for the 3rd year in the same suit. But what could you do? Because of her illness, she could not even get a job elsewhere. At one time, she tried to take a part-time job as a cleaner. She got the position, but could only hold it for a month. She didn't have the strength to fumble with buckets, climbing the shelves, wiping the dust. She had to give it up. I don't understand, Robin. Since you have a child, you had a man, no matter what. Can't you just file for alimony? Well, at least you'd get a few extra pennies, said the head of the library to her once. Yes, there was indeed a man, and not just anyone but her beloved. But what is left of that love now? Only memory, and Leo. For her son, of course, Robin was grateful to Trevor, as well as for love. She was grateful for the happiness that lasted for such a short time, but there was no one to blame. What did she count on? An orphanage fool, a student of the library school, when she got together with a guy from a rich family. It's very rare that such connections turn out to be strong and lead to a happy marriage, so she had to face betrayal. No, Robin did not want to think that way about her lover. At first, yes, she did. It was when his father met her on the street and told her not to torment his son's head and not interfere with happiness. Trevor has a great future, understand? He has a bride, a beautiful girl with whom they will be happy. He continues to date you only out of pity. He got carried away at some point, and now he doesn't know how to leave you. He told me and his mother that. He almost cried. He doesn't need you, but he doesn't dare to break up. He says you're so intrusive that you almost threaten to ruin yourself, but I am sure you're a sensible girl and will do the right thing. Yes, of course, whispered Robin with frozen lips, but still she had some hope. He himself said that he loved me, that we would marry. Well, I am explaining it to you out of pity, purely out of pity. You are an orphan, you will work in the library, and he has to start his own business. Well, think about it. What kind of bride are you to him? All crickets know their place, remember? Well, there you go. So here's what I propose. You're just about to start your summer vacation. I've booked for you a trip to a very nice place on the seaside. It's wonderful nature. You'll definitely meet someone. Well, someone much more suitable for you. Don't say anything to Trevor, just go away. When you come back, everything will be forgotten. Thank you, I don't need it, retreated the girl from the voucher held out to her. But her lover's father insisted. No, you don't understand. If you do not leave, you will meet again, whining, crying, threatening, and as a result, Trevor will have nothing else to do but continue his torturous relationship. If you have any feelings for him, take the trip and go, okay? If you don't care about Trevor, at least think about yourself. You're being offered the perfect way out, but if you don't accept it, believe me, I'll find other ways, and they'll be much more unpleasant for you. Robin took the voucher, not because she was afraid, but because she thought that perhaps this man was not lying, and indeed it would be better for his son if Robin was not here. Well, she'll help. Robin retreated to the sea, where she lay in her room, face buried in her pillow, blind to the surrounding natural beauty. Sometimes she yearned to leap up and run back to the city, to rush to Trevor, to tell him she loved him and explain that they were going to have a child. Yes, she had discovered her pregnancy at the resort, and this could change everything, regardless of Trevor's feelings toward her. Back in town, Robin visited the doctor, not for termination, but to check her pregnancy. After examining her, the doctor shook his head. "Did you know you have heart problems? I cannot recommend pregnancy," he said gravely. This was the first Robin had heard of any health issues. She always thought herself perfectly healthy. She suspected the doctor was trying to discourage her because she was unmarried, but she stood firm, explaining she wanted this child because she loved and needed the baby, and she didn't need it at all to try to get Trevor back. She gave up on that idea. She wasn't in town for 3 weeks. She left without warning to Trevor, without saying goodbye, and he probably felt surprised at first, and finally relieved at her absence. After all, you can't force someone to love you when they see you as an unwanted burden, can you? Even if he married her now, it would be purely from pity. Robin couldn't accept that. She understood raising a child alone would be challenging, but she wasn't the first or last woman to face this. Even her acquaintances, girls from the orphanage, had found themselves in similar situations, some becoming single mothers. They managed. What mattered most was having this beloved child. And so it happened. Leo was born, and Robin joined the ranks of single mothers. However, her heart conditions required constant treatment and surgery, which she couldn't afford. She pursued medical care, knowing that if she died, Leo would end up alone in an orphanage. She couldn't let that happen. Robin raised her boy to be independent. She never considered asking Trevor for support. She didn't even know where he lived now. He'd probably left the parents' house after marrying. Even if she knew about his whereabouts, she couldn't imagine approaching him, reminding him of their past, telling him about their child, or explaining her need for medical treatment and financial help. No, she'd never asked anyone for anything, and she wouldn't start now. If she'd meant anything to him, he would have found her, if only to explain himself. Since he hadn't, she'd carry this burden alone. Leo became her greatest joy, her precious boy, for whom she'd give anything. But she had nothing to give. Each time she bought medicine, she felt devastated, knowing she was taking money away from her child, denying him things other children had. He was only 6 now. Next year he'd start school, where these inequalities would become more apparent. For now he didn't complain about his toys or clothes being different. But what about later? The situation deeply troubled Robin. She knew earning more was the only solution, but her health problems made that impossible. It was a vicious cycle with no apparent escape. Leo truly grew into an independent boy, helping his mother however he could, and causing little trouble. Understanding her need for rest, he played outside alone, always returning home on time to avoid worrying her. Initially he stayed at the playground visible from their windows, but after turning 6, he became interested in a beautiful new playground a few streets through. It was complete with a sandbox, new slides and sports equipment. He began asking his mother's permission to play there. "Leo, how can I let you? I won't be able to see you from the window. I'll worry, and that's not good for my health." "Mum, you don't need to worry there. They have a guard who keeps out anyone suspicious. It's close by. I don't even have to cross the street." "But dear, the guard might send you away. He could say that the playground is only for residents of that big building." Robin tried to reason with her son, but he persisted. "Nobody gets chased away. I've already been there." Poor child. He didn't realise it wasn't written on him, but his clothes made it clear he couldn't live in this rich house, where people lived much better and took care of their children's outfits. Maybe they wouldn't kick Leo out, though who could know? Anything was possible. But why upset the child unnecessarily? Then again, forbidding him would upset him too. Robin decided that Leo could still visit while she shopped at the nearest supermarket. Seeing how her son enjoyed the playground, made friends there, and wasn't chased away, and knowing he could find his way home, she decided to let him go alone. During one such visit, a strange incident occurred. A boy, older than the other children and unfamiliar to the neighbourhood, wandered into the playground. Most parents in this secure area allowed children Leo's age to play independently. The older boy began bullying a 6-year-old, trying to take something from him. The little victim couldn't fight back and only cried, waving his hands helplessly. Leo stepped in to defend him. Though no serious fighting occurred, the boys were too small to hurt each other. His intervention impressed the crying boy. "That was great, you chased him away," he said to Leo, wiping his nose. "Have you always been so brave? Or did you have to learn?" "I think I've always been brave, but Mama tells me we must stand up for the weak. You need to be stronger. How old are you?" 6. "Well, I'm 6 too. You don't have to be afraid of bullies. I'm Leo. What's your name?" "I'm Morgan. My dad says he'll send me to classes where they teach fighting and self-defense, and defending others too, probably. And that's for when I start school. Which house do you live in?" The boys became friends. Leo now visited the playground, not just to play but to see Morgan. At first it was a simple friendship between boys, starting to feel grown up. They played together and shared their private conversations. Nothing extraordinary. Then one day, Morgan brought an expensive cell phone, not to show off, but to give to his friend. "Here, Leo, this is for you," he said, offering the smartphone. "It's not right that you don't have one. It's so inconvenient. We can call each other. My number's already saved. Look." "Thank you, but it's costly. Mum said she'd buy me one when I start school. I don't want to cause trouble with your parents." "No, Dad bought himself a new one. This one's just sitting around. He always does this. Gets a new model and gives me the old one. I already have a good phone. See? Let me show you how to use it." "No, don't. Your dad will be angry. It's really expensive." Unlike Morgan, who was used to abundance and didn't think about money, Leo understood that things had value. However, Morgan was too insistent. "I'm telling you, take it. My daddy is kind, he never swears, unlike my mummy. But she's not my real one," said Morgan. "What do you mean, not real?" Leo was surprised. "It's like this. Does your mum love you?" "Of course. All mothers love children." "Only real ones do. Yours is real then. Mine doesn't love me. She doesn't talk to me, just yells. 'Go away, don't bother me, don't touch me.' I'm sick of her." Leo was shocked by this relationship. He accepted the smartphone, not from greed or wanting an expensive toy, but because he felt sorry for Morgan. He would never trade his mum for any smartphone. He might not have expensive things, but he had a real mum. Robin was shocked when she saw the expensive phone in her son's hands. She didn't think Leo had stolen it. Perhaps he'd picked up something someone had lost. "No, Mum, no, my friend gave it to me. He's good. His dad doesn't need this phone anymore, so he gave it to Morgan. But Morgan already has one, so he gave it to me." "But Morgan didn't earn this money himself. His dad might get angry. Better return it, we don't need any trouble." "There won't be any trouble. He gave it to me. I didn't want to take it myself, but Morgan got upset. I had to take it. Please, let me keep it for a while. I'll play with it and give it back." And Robin waved her hand, unable to resist her son's eyes shining with joy at possessing such an expensive, fascinating object. She knew she couldn't afford to buy him anything like that any time soon. Besides, she had enough on her plate, without worrying about something one child had given to another. She couldn't go looking for Morgan now, could she? Surely Leo would play with it and return it eventually. But things didn't unfold as Robin and Leo expected. The phone belonged to Trevor Polanco, a prominent businessman who had inherited his company from his late father and had successfully expanded it. For his son, Trevor really did not spare anything, even though Morgan was not a native child but an adopted one. It so happened that, successful in business, the man was unhappy in his personal life. He had married 5 years ago, without much love. His first romance had ended so badly that he'd convinced himself love didn't exist, and women couldn't be trusted. The woman he'd planned to marry had vanished without a word. His father opened his eyes then, told him that he had learned something about Trevor's beloved. It turned out that she wasn't who she said she was. She allegedly escaped, not alone but with a new fiancé or lover, having gone somewhere in the south. Trevor avoided women for years afterward. Then Melinda entered his wife and everything happened quickly. She literally stuck to him constantly, giving him no time to think. Though his already ill father opposed the marriage, he was too weak to intervene. When Melinda claimed she was pregnant after their first night together, Trevor felt he had no choice but to marry her. The pregnancy turned out to be a lie. Worse still, later, his wife declared she had no intention of having children. "Have you any idea of the agony? Would you really put me through such an ordeal? Not to mention how childbirth ruins a woman's figure, face, everything." "Melinda, we married because you were expecting. Now you're saying there was never a baby and never will be? What's the point of our marriage? Should we divorce?" "That's different. Divorce is for couples who don't love each other. If you want a child so badly, we can adopt from an orphanage." Trevor agreed to adoption. So Morgan, a nearly 3-year-old boy, joined their family. Though Trevor had wanted to adopt a newborn, Melinda refused. A newborn? Are you crazy? He'll scream day and night, never let you sleep, refuse to eat. You'll have to spend all day carrying and rocking him. Let's take an older child who can walk, talk, and understand things. I won't have a baby in this house." That was typical of Trevor's wife. Though they adopted Morgan, Melinda never truly became a mother. She feigned kindness in the beginning, but soon the child began to irritate her. She increasingly pushed him away. Morgan, sensing her rejection, kept his distance from Melinda. He rarely called her Mum. Trevor gradually accepted that his personal life would never bring happiness. He loved the boy deeply, treating him as his own son, and tried to ignore his wife's behaviour. Even discovering her likely infidelity didn't particularly upset him. He considered divorce inevitable. He just hadn't found time to handle it. The phone Morgan had taken wasn't a spare. Trevor used it occasionally for special business calls. It was necessary to consult knowledgeable people. Trevor noticed that there was something wrong in his company. Sometimes small, but still noticeable amounts of money disappeared from the accounts. The contact numbers for his advisors were stored in that phone. Unable to find the necessary device, Trevor asked his wife. But she, as usual in her rude manner, claimed she hadn't seen it and wasn't hired to keep track of Trevor's things. "Ask your precious son. He's always taking things that don't belong to him. Horrible child. He has no respect for other people's property." "Everything in this apartment is his too," Trevor snapped, exhausted by his wife's treatment of their son, whom they had adopted at her suggestion, no less. Her constant attacks on the little boy had worn his patience thin. Still, Trevor reasoned, if Morgan had taken the phone, it wasn't a criminal or serious matter. He called his son, asked about the phone, and the boy calmly said Yes, Dad, I took it. I thought you didn't need it anymore, since you have another new cool one.
No, Morgan, this won't do. Whether I need it or not, you should have asked me first, before taking other people's things. I hope you haven't broken it at least. Bring it here, I really need it now, Trevor said sternly.
Oh, Dad, I don't have it anymore, the son said, confused.
What do you mean? Where did you put it?
I gave it to a friend. Well, since I thought you didn't need it, and he doesn't have a cell phone.
Which friend? How could you take my thing and give it away? Do you know where he lives?
He showed me where his house is, but I don't remember the number or the apartment. But he lives on the 3rd floor with his mum. And his name is Leo. He's very nice, the little boy tried to explain to his father.
Oh, Morgan, I don't doubt that he is a nice boy, but taking things from home and giving them to strangers isn't right. You're 6 years old now. You should understand this.
There was nothing else to do. The only solution was to call the gifted phone and explain to the unknown Leo that its owner needed it urgently. If he were a reasonable child, there wouldn't be any problems. They could meet and he would return the phone. Trevor dialed his number, turning on the video link. Robin answered. Seeing her still dear face on the screen, which he had never expected to see again, Trevor was taken aback. Robin appeared equally startled. The virtual meeting was a complete surprise for both of them, and not a pleasant one. Trevor explained why he was calling, and Robin nodded in understanding. This is quite interesting. I stopped believing in coincidences long ago, and now my son somehow ends up with your phone. Did you plot this whole thing?
How could I possibly plot all this? Did I give your child a cell phone?
You gave it to your son, and you're perfectly capable of telling a 6-year-old why and to whom he should give it. What more do you want from me, Trevor? Wasn't ruining my life once enough? Now you've decided to come back and torment me again. You have a wife and child. What else do you want?
You're being irrational. I don't want anything from you, thank you. I never tormented you. You're the one who acted dishonourably, you must admit.
I? Dishonourable? What are you talking about?
Well, decent girls don't run away the day after agreeing to marry. But let's not create drama. Keep the phone for your son, since his father can't buy him one.
We can manage just fine, don't worry. We don't need your charity. Come, take it away, or I'll throw it out, Robin blurted out, fighting back tears.
Do whatever you want with it. It would be better if you never reminded me of your existence.
The conversation ended there. Robin handed the phone to her son. Here, Leo, play, but it would be better if you didn't meet this Morgan any more. Why, Mum? He's not bad, he's really nice. And who was that on the phone? Oh, I'll tell you later. I need to lie down and take a pill. Robin's chest tightened again as she thought about Trevor. Leo says Morgan is also 6, which means Trevor's father wasn't lying. He must have married almost immediately after breaking up with her. Or perhaps he was already involved with that other woman who became his wife. Was this meeting really an accident? Possibly, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe I was right. Maybe Trevor has instructed his son to give the phone to my boy. I wonder if he realizes Leo is my child. Trevor, of course, had no idea, but similar thoughts troubled him. So, Robin has a 6-year-old son. She left then, as my dad said, for the south, and presumably had this boy Leo with that man. The same Leo who's now friends with my Morgan. An accident, maybe. Trevor had seen Morgan playing in the playground many times. Maybe he had seen Leo too. They live nearby. So Robin still lives in that apartment she received after graduating from the orphanage. What does that mean? She found a fiancé without his own place? Or did Leo's father simply not marry her? But why should I care now? It's none of my business. It would be better if we never saw each other again.
Even now my heart is racing after this conversation. Clearly nothing has been forgotten or resolved since Robin's cheating. As fate would have it, Melinda was sitting in the next room and overheard this conversation. It unsettled her. She sensed this exchange might threaten her security. While she knew her husband held no particular affection for her, she'd never worried about other women. This had always made her feel her position was stable. And now, suddenly... Who are you arguing with on the phone? Who's the one who ran away from you on the eve of the wedding? And why don't I know anything about it? She asked. Because it doesn't concern you, Trevor answered sharply. And in general, don't eavesdrop on other people's conversations. Mind your own business. Better call your precious Sam. Yes. Trevor even knew the name of his rival, which came as a complete surprise to Melinda. What Sam? What are you talking about? She shouted. You're the one who cheats, and then you dare accuse me. Tell me, who did you call? Who did you give that phone to? Get off my back! Why are you bothering me? I didn't call anyone, and I didn't give anyone anything. Trevor roughly pushed his wife out of his study and slammed the door. This was something new. He had never acted so rudely before. Melinda sensed trouble brewing and decided to act. First, she needed to find out who received that call. She pieced together the scenario. Her husband was looking for his cell phone, which his son had apparently taken and given to someone. Then her husband must have called this boy, encountered his mother, and recognized her as either a former or current girlfriend. How interesting. She had to find out who this mother was. Though her relationship with Morgan wasn't great, she decided to sweet-talk the boy to learn more. "Sonny, come here, let's talk," she called sweetly. The boy approached trustingly, and Melinda began her inquiry. "Tell Mummy, what did you and Daddy talk about? Did you give his phone number to someone?" "Yeah, to my friend. I didn't know Daddy would need it." "But luckily, he barely even got mad," he replied. "Of course. What's wrong with sharing a spare phone? Everyone does it. And this boy, you say he's nice. What's his name?" "Leo." "Does he come to the playground with his mum?" "No, she only picks him up sometimes when she comes from the store. He walks alone. We're big boys." "Of course you are. Has your dad talked to this mum? Have you seen them together?" "No, Dad didn't talk to her. I think he called her on his phone, the one he needed," Morgan explained. "Fine. Do you know where this Leo lives?" Melinda pressed. "I don't. Why do you want to know?" The child clearly didn't like this conversation. He was used to expecting the worst from his mum. "If I'm asking, I need to know. And I can tell you're lying. You must know where he lives. Is it in our building? Which apartment? Tell me. You can't lie to your mother." She grew more insistent. "I'm not lying. I really don't know. I've never been to his place. But he doesn't live in our building. He lives in another one." "Which building? Show me. It can't be far, if he comes to our playground." "It's not far. 4 houses down from ours. You can see it from the playground. It's grey, 5 stories high, and they live on the 3rd floor. But that's all I know." "Great," she said viciously, realizing that she wouldn't get any more information from the child. Still, it was enough for now. She pushed Morgan away as usual. "Go to your room, do whatever you want there, and leave me alone." Now, Melinda knew where this woman lived and on which floor. There was no need to check every apartment on the 3rd floor. She could learn more from the residents. Melinda went to the building to locate her targets. It proved surprisingly easy. The elderly woman on the bench told her exactly where the single mother lived with her young son Leo. Without hesitation, Melinda climbed to the right floor and rang the doorbell firmly. Robin opened the door, expecting the nurse she'd called after her conversation with Trevor. She felt relieved that help had arrived so quickly. Her heart was still racing from that unexpected call. Instead, a stranger burst in,
hurling accusations. "What do you think you're doing? Why are you chasing after other women's husbands?" Melinda demanded, hands on her hips. "What husbands? What are you talking about?" Robin asked, bewildered. She hated confrontation and arguments, and she felt terrible. "My husband, my Trevor. Why did you call him? What did you arrange with him? Listen here, you wretch. He doesn't want anything to do with you. He's my lawful husband. He married me, and he loves only me. He doesn't want to know you. Who would want to? A single mum, abandoned. We have a son. We've been together for years, and we want nothing to do with you." "I don't want to know anyone or cling to anyone. Go away, please. He's the one who called. I'm sorry. I can't talk to you. I'm not well. I'm waiting for the nurse." "Wait. You might not be waiting for anyone if you keep acting like this. You're wrong if you think I'll let you have my husband." "I don't want your husband," Robin said, leaning against the door jamb. Melinda realised the woman wasn't pretending. Her face had turned ashen, and she could barely stand. A boy emerged from the room and declared firmly, "Don't scold my mother. Here's that phone which Morgan gave to me. We don't need it. Take it and leave." Melinda took the smartphone and studied the boy's face, noticing his clear resemblance to her husband. "Fine, have it your way, but I don't want to hear another word about you or your mother, and stay away from us." Just then, a nurse who knew Melinda and her condition appeared at the door. Seeing Robin's poor state, she immediately led her into the living room, not bothering with the stranger's presence. Melinda, not quite satisfied with the scene, went home. Entering her husband's room, she threw him the phone. "Here, I talked to your lover and she won't go near you again. She couldn't if she wanted to. She's probably in an ambulance by now, and maybe gone forever." "What?" Trevor shouted. "What have you done?" A terrible thought seized him. Had Melinda done something unthinkable to Robin? Some women were capable of things beyond imagination. His mind raced with horrific possibilities. Acid, knives, blood. Poor Robin. Had something irreparable happened to her? He bolted from the apartment toward his beloved's house. He didn't need directions. An ambulance was already parked outside. Paramedics were carrying an unconscious Robin on a stretcher. Leo stood crying and didn't know what to do now because he was all alone without his mother. Trevor followed the ambulance, taking the boy with him and calming him on the way. "Don't cry. Is your name Leo? That's fine. We'll ask the doctors what's wrong with your mum, and then we'll go home." "How can I go home alone now? We have no relatives, no family. Will my mum be discharged soon?" Leo cried. "We'll find out soon. Don't cry. While your mum is in hospital, you'll stay with me and Morgan. I'm his dad. You're friends, aren't you?" "Yes, we are. I returned your phone to that woman who yelled at my mum." At the hospital, Trevor learned about Robin's illness and the treatment options. "The situation is serious, but we need to run some tests to determine the best course of action," the hospital staff told him. It was late evening, and Trevor and Leo drove home to return there later in the morning. When Melinda saw her husband enter with the boy, she immediately cried out, "What the hell is this?" "This is Leo. He's staying with us while Robin's in the hospital," which happened after your visit, Trevor replied. "Well, well. So, you've decided to collect all the foundlings? Why should he be brought here? Are you sleeping with his mother? That means nothing. Take him to an orphanage. Better yet, both of them. I'm sick of all this." Morgan came out of the room crying. While his father was away, Melinda had been snapping at him and had even slapped him. But seeing his father return with Leo, who would now live with them, the boy forgot his troubles.
Meanwhile, Melinda's anxiety intensified. She wanted to get rid of her rival, but it backfired. Now that woman's son will live with them. Why should she put up with this? She's already sick of one adopted child, as well as her husband, whom she would also love to get rid of. However, Trevor avoided arguing with her. He told Melinda to mind her own business and went to set up Leo in Morgan's room. It was clear to him now he would have to divorce Melinda as soon as possible, regardless of what happened with Robin. Now he knew Robin had no husband and no family, but did that give him any hope? He wasn't sure. The next day, he visited the hospital alone and learned all the details about Robin's condition and what her recovery would require. Unable to remain indifferent to the fate of his someday beloved woman, Trevor decided to pay for the operation. When he got home, he told Leo, "Well, buddy, it looks like you'll be staying with us longer than expected, but your mum will be completely healthy when she leaves the hospital, and she won't need constant medication." The boy was happy, though he missed his mother terribly and wished for her quick discharge. Melinda, however, wanted both orphan brats out of her home as soon as possible. "Melinda, you know what? You're the one who is going to be out of my house. I finally come up with the decision to divorce. There's nothing keeping us together. You clearly have someone else, and I doubt our divorce will devastate you." But his wife thought otherwise. Robin's operation was successful, but recovery took time, and Leo continued living with Trevor. Everything was fine until both boys suddenly fell ill. Trevor got the young patients to the family doctor, and he assured the worried father that the boys would recover soon. "That's odd," said the doctor. "I've known you and your family for a long time. You and one of the boys have very rare blood. Oh, and by the way, he looks just like you. I'm talking about Leo. I heard you know his mother, so dare I say—" "What?" Trevor asked in astonishment. "Leo? My son? Well, I can't confirm it. It would require a DNA test. But you know, it looks like it." The doctor smiled. Trevor was struck to the core. His father deceived him. Robin didn't leave with some lover. She just went somewhere without telling him about the pregnancy, neither before nor after. To be certain, he took a DNA test and soon received an unequivocal answer. Leo was his son. This changed everything. He decided not to tell Melinda about his discovery, but she found the results herself and realized she had to act urgently. There was only one way: to eliminate Robin. Having both boys in their house wasn't that important anymore. The main thing was to prevent herself from ending up on the street. Her lover couldn't provide her such a good life. Melinda found out which clinic housed Leo's mother and went there. After the operation, Robin was in intensive care, where visitors weren't allowed. But Melinda knew how to negotiate. "I'm not a stranger. I am her best friend. I'm practically her sister. I just need to see her. Robin's son is staying with me. I must tell her he's fine. Then she won't worry and she'll recover faster. And I want to pass on Leo's greetings to her too. You have a heart, don't you? Please let me through for just a minute." She begged the doctor on duty and managed to get in. Left alone with her friend for a minute, she leaned over the sleeping Robin's face, smiled venomously, and disconnected the life support machine. But of course, her stupid plan failed. The signal immediately alerted the duty doctor. Robin was saved, and Melinda was handed over to the police. Then Trevor received a call about what his wife had done. A sobbing, repentant Melinda claimed she meant no harm and had hit the machine accidentally. She was released, but forbidden from going near the hospital. When Robin had recovered somewhat from surgery, he visited her with flowers. "Robin,
Trevor said as he entered the room. "Hello." She remained half lying, not attempting to rise, but looked noticeably better. "I'm so grateful for everything you've done for me and my son Leo. For our Leo." "Yes, Robin, I know everything now." He placed the flowers on the nightstand and kissed her thin, almost transparent but warm hand. "Why didn't you tell me? How did you manage alone without me? And why didn't I know I was raising such a wonderful, independent son? But you found out anyway." Robin smiled through tears. "And I knew you would. At first, yes, I was hurt. I thought since you didn't know, you should remain ignorant. Then I realized how foolish that was. But it's over now and it's fine. I hope you won't try to take him from me." "Why would I? We've become good friends, and you know—" "I'd like him to live with me. And you too," admitted the man. "And what would I be there? A housekeeper?" She frowned. "Clearly your spouse doesn't like to trouble herself. How is she, by the way? Was she released? I heard she tried to kill me." "They let her go, and I'm letting her go too. We're getting divorced. I know offering you my heart right now is foolish. You may never forgive me, but perhaps I can earn your trust. Either way, I'm offering you an apartment in our building so you and Leo can be close by, allowing me to care for you both. Will you accept?" Robin smiled uncertainly, then turned to face the wall, hiding fresh tears. "Wait, Trevor, you're rushing things. I can't think about this right now, honestly, but I'll definitely consider it. I'm sorry, but I'm exhausted." Robin hurried to end Trevor's visit, not because she felt unwell. She actually felt quite good. She simply needed time to process everything that had happened lately. She had never stopped loving Trevor. Living alone, she often dreamed of their reunion, of him realizing what he'd lost by abandoning her. But could she forgive him? In her dreams, their meeting played out differently each time. Sometimes they reunited. Other times, she proudly turned away and left. But now we've met in reality, and he offers me a life together. He seems to understand and wants to be with me and our son. Exactly what I wanted. Could I simply agree, forgive everything, and start anew? Since the old life is gone anyway. Leo would have a father. We wouldn't need to hide any more. When father and son meet, questions about why they don't live together will inevitably arise. Yes, it's difficult for me to agree immediately. But why? The resentment has long since faded. And love remains. And I need no one except Trevor. Meanwhile, Trevor had much to contemplate himself as well. Things are definitely over with Melinda, but how can I rebuild with Robin? I've already imagined our perfect new family. Myself, my beloved wife, 2 children. Morgan will certainly stay with us. Melinda won't fight for him. And Robin, if she agreed to marry me, she would surely accept both me and my son, even though he's not hers. But would she accept the man who once abandoned her? Soon, however, personal matters took a back seat to more pressing issues. Realizing divorce was inevitable, Melinda decided to act. When Trevor's parents learned of their son's engagement, they had insisted on a prenuptial agreement, which they drafted themselves. The groom, absorbed in his love at the time, barely noticed its significance. Melinda, too, had been overconfident. Shortly after the marriage, Trevor understood his father's wisdom. Now Melinda understood it too, but only as her husband seriously pursued divorce. The contract left her very little, especially since the divorce was her fault. And her fault was undeniable. Trevor had discovered her affair, caught her attempted murder plot, and she'd given him no children. True, there was Morgan, but Melinda wouldn't keep the child, even for support payments. She'd never managed to love the boy, who had always been nothing but a burden to her. A divorced woman with a child in tow? Unthinkable for her or Sam. She also doubted her lover would want her as a lonely poor woman rather than a rich man's wife. But Melinda's calculating mind quickly found a solution. She cultivated the right connections within the company and gained trust. Before, she had arranged small fund diversions from her husband's accounts, nothing that caused major losses. Now she regretted her modesty. She had been wasteful, spending everything on clothes, jewellery, and Sam. After the divorce, what would remain? A pile of clothes, some trinkets, nothing more? Would Sam even continue their relationship? Melinda harboured no illusions about her lover's feelings. Having escaped one criminal case, Melinda decided to attempt another. She managed to drain all of her husband's accounts before vanishing abroad with her lover. They fled before the police could investigate, feeling satisfied and justified in their revenge against her tyrannical husband, who had allegedly kept her prisoner. At least, that's how they rationalised their actions. When Trevor discovered he had been left with nothing, he remained surprisingly untroubled. He was happy. He and Robin had finally spoken openly with each other and realised their separation had been a tragic mistake. Their reconciliation came naturally. They both wanted to be together and create a real family. Their love had endured, and old grievances seemed pointless after everything they'd been through since their separation. The children adapted well to the change. When Leo learned he would now have both a father and a stepbrother, he revealed he already thought of Morgan as his brother and Trevor as his father. The transition was perhaps harder for Morgan, who had struggled with maternal relationships, but meeting Robin showed him that not all women would reject him. Under his new mother's care, the boy's guarded heart began to soften. When Trevor introduced Robin and told Morgan to call her Mum, he complied, out of habitual obedience to his father. Initially, Morgan's use of Mum carried no emotion, but within a month he asked Robin, "Will you be my real mum?" "Of course, dear," Robin replied, kissing his cheek. "If it stays like this, I couldn't be happier," Morgan exclaimed. The family truly became complete. Trevor and Robin married in a modest but heartfelt ceremony. After declaring bankruptcy, Trevor sold his company without haggling over the price. He paid his employees their remaining wages and felt relieved to shed the burden of responsibility. He accepted he might never recover his losses and chose not to dwell on it. Unwilling to remain idle, he soon took an entry-level position at another company. Despite his past as a successful businessman, he accepted a humble role. Though rumours of his company's bankruptcy had damaged his reputation, Trevor remained optimistic, relying on his knowledge and experience. His dedication paid off. Within a year, he had risen to senior management, and the family's financial security was restored. No one dwelled on past wealth or previous circumstances. They had begun anew, leaving the past behind. A year after the wedding, Robin shared joyful news with her husband and children. Their family would soon welcome one more little person. While Trevor rejoiced, he also felt concerned, remembering Robin's health problems. "Listen, Robin, will this be safe for you? You've had such serious heart problems." "They've been resolved. Don't worry. I've already consulted all the right doctors and they say there shouldn't be any complications. I'm sure everything will be fine. Besides, our boys could use a little sister. Though another brother wouldn't be bad either, don't you think?" "Agreed. Either would be wonderful. I just worry about you." "You don't need to. Just stay positive and everything will be fine," Robin smiled. The pregnancy progressed smoothly and in due time, she gave birth to a beautiful, strong baby. Both mother and child were healthy, and the father and brothers were overjoyed. In their daily happiness and busy routines, no one dwelled on the past, until one day it unexpectedly surfaced. While in town, buying fruit for the children, Trevor noticed a sad, poorly dressed woman collecting alms near the market. He might never have recognized this vagrant as Melinda, but when she lifted her head to adjust her headscarf, he saw his ex-wife instantly. Melinda didn't notice him. She barely glanced at passers-by, focusing only on her collection box, where sympathetic souls dropped coins. Who gave didn't matter to her. She cared only about gathering enough money for another drink. Would she manage to numb herself tonight? Indeed, she had much to forget, though not her past happy life with her husband, or how she'd robbed him when she fled. She considered those mere trifles. Other memories haunted her: her escape with her beloved to a warm country, their seemingly blissful time at an overseas resort. Then came that terrible day when she discovered Sam was dividing his attention between her and countless other women, with less and less time for Melinda. While she still had money, she announced to Sam her intention to return home. "Are you crazy? You'll be imprisoned there immediately." Sam tried to stop her. "What do you care? If they put me in jail, I'll sit there. Nobody will touch you. We'll see how the girls throw themselves at you when you're left with nothing." Sam tried to object, argue, persuade, and even threaten her. Then he apparently made another decision and simply disappeared one day, vanishing just as she had once done to Trevor, taking everything she owned. What could a poor woman do in a foreign country? She couldn't even go to the police. And what would she tell them anyway? She had no choice but to sell her last possessions and return to her hometown alone. For a while, she clung to a desperate hope that Sam would return, but of course he never did. Wandering the city without money, housing, relatives, or friends, she realized her situation was hopeless. She even began to wish someone would arrest her and put her in prison. At least that would be a way out. But it turned out no one was looking for her or planning to prosecute her. No one needed her or cared about her at all. She spent some time drifting between different men, mostly those living on society's margins. She drank heavily, and eventually only one option remained: sitting near the market, collecting coins for her next drink. Trevor didn't know all the details of her life after her escape, nor did he want to. He felt some pity for Melinda, but not much. After all, she had brought this on herself. He didn't approach her, greet her, or try to talk. He simply bought some groceries, left the bag beside her, and walked away. At home, he decided not to mention this encounter. His family didn't need to know about this woman. He himself wished he didn't know either.